All right, ladies, I'm excited to jump on here. So I'm just making sure that technology is working for me. We are all good to go. All right, there I am. Awesome. So I am using broadcasting equipment that doesn't show me who comments. So if you are joining me, I'm not going to see your name, but you can definitely still comment. So please do that. And we're going to chat today about a really, really important topic. So thank you so much for coming here. I will go ahead and just introduce myself as we give time for everyone to jump on. So I'm Crystal Melanson. I am a certified nutrition and functional health practitioner, and I specialize in fertility, women's health, helping to maximize and men fertility so that you can conceive. And I have had 2 babies myself. So passionate about this time in your life, preparing to conceive, pregnancy, new parents, all of that. And this topic is especially important for me because it is very relevant to my own fertility journey and how I was able to conceive my children naturally. So I have worked in nutrition and health worked and studied for over 15 years now. And I have had struggles during that time. At one point in my journey, I was really struggling with fertility. In fact, my mother conceived me and my brothers through IVF. And so I very much thought that that was going to have to be my route as well. From the beginning of my life, I was aware that women can have trouble having babies. And I thought I would have to go down that route, especially after I was diagnosed with PCOS. And I was told it'd be extremely difficult for me to ever get pregnant naturally, that I would need medications and treatments. But I was able to really work through specific frameworks, work naturally to regulate my cycles, and committed to that, to figuring out what I could do. And I was able to conceive my babies naturally, which I'm very blessed and thankful for. And I want to help spread this word, spread the frameworks around the strategy to help you in your journey as well, no matter where you are in the process. So ladies, if you are thinking about conceiving, if you are trying, or if you've been trying for a while and struggling, this is always relevant for you. Always. So before we get going too, I would love to know who's joining me live. So we'll say hi in the comments. Let me know if you're here. If you're watching the replay, you can also comment replay and let me know. And I'm just really happy that you have taken the time out of your day to join me and listen to this important topic. So this is something that is critical and so often overlooked. It's one of the most important times that you need to think about your gut is before you conceive and while you're pregnant too. And more evidence is showing that our child's gut bacteria is even founded before birth. We used to think the womb was a sterile environment. That's not true. We're figuring that out. And this is so important because gut health has been shown to affect all areas of health. It's really the cornerstone to health and longevity. And it's called our second brain. It's called your second brain because it's that important for that reason. It controls and affects so much from your hormones, metabolism, allergies, weight control, mood and attention, inflammation, stress response. The list can go on really. For your entire life, it helps regulate all of these things. And new babies that are being born, this is important to them, but also as they grow. And we know children are really struggling with so many of these issues, these health concerns. And we can make a difference of this before we even conceive for our future babies. And so, when you think about your gut, you often think about digestion. Okay, so you might think like, oh, do you have stomach cramps after you eat? Or do you feel bloated? Are you going to the bathroom regularly? Common questions when we talk about gut health, but they're all important, but your gut health is so much more than that. Okay, so it's more than just how is your digestion. And I want to share something with you here. I'm going to share this graphic. So what you can see, there's me. I'm going to make this bigger. All right. So it's so much more than just your digestion, because gut health can affect and show up in other ways. So you might think this isn't relevant to you because you don't struggle with issues after you eat, maybe, but it's so much more than that. And it's the most important organ of our immune system, really, our gut. And our gut microbiome is all of the bacteria that's contained there. So when we talk about a microbiome, your gut microbiome, that is the whole community of bacteria, of anything else that can be living there, viruses, funguses, parasites, things, that we don't want to have. But it's that whole organism community. And this is important because guess what? You are actually more bacteria cells than you are human cells. Crazy, right? You are more bacteria than you are human. That's that big of a deal. So we got to take care of these guys. They're important to us. And so when you have issues there, it can show up in other ways than just digestion. So sure, you might have bloating or stomach cramps. Maybe you're not going to the bathroom regularly every day, diarrhea, any of those things, nausea, heartburn. But it can also show up in some of these other symptoms. And you can let me know if you experience any of these in the comments. But allergies, colds, constant cravings or hunger, headaches, brain fog, skin issues, that's a huge one. Joint pain, depression or anxiety, another huge one. Autoimmune disease, chronic yeast infections, symptoms of estrogen imbalance, sinus issues, anemia, and of course, fertility issues. So it can show up in lots of different ways. And we need bacteria to be healthy. So it's important that we have the right balance of all of these guys, because with our lifestyle, so antibiotic use, pesticides, herbicides, medications, a less diverse diet, sanitizing everything, not playing in the dirt, and stress, even just stress, these can all decrease the strength of your bacteria and hurt that microbiome. And when we do that, it causes oxidative stress and inflammation. And so while acute inflammation is normal, so if you sprain your ankle swells up. That's normal healing process. But when we have chronic stressors in our body, you can create long-term chronic inflammation, like this low-grade fire that is just burning and burning and burning, like those wildfires we had here in Colorado that seem to never go out, right? That can be incredibly damaging. And your gut microbiome is one of the main drivers of this inflammation, which can impact you on conceiving, becoming a mom, having an easy pregnancy, and even at your birth and your children's health. So, to put it simply, a mother's gut health translates to getting pregnant and her baby's health. And so I want to talk about trying to conceive, because I know so many of you are currently trying to conceive, and why this is important to talk about now, because it can affect so many things before you even have that conception take place. So it can affect your hormones. So the gut microbiome, for one, is responsible for converting estrogen to active estrogen. There's a marker in one of my labs that I use with clients that can show too, is this being done well? How is this happening? And I see oftentimes that it isn't in the best function. But your gut microbiome, your liver, are all really important for this estrogen metabolism. And there was a recent study review that showed that without this healthy microbiome, then this estrogen metabolism can become very impaired, leading to some issues like endometriosis, PCOS, infertility, endometrial hyperplasia, which is an issue. You can see all of these things that can be affected because of that gut microbiome. And I've seen that in myself and in clients, when I had leaky gut. So poor gut health in our body it enters our body into a chronic state of inflammation, as I mentioned, right? Chronic inflammation has also been shown to impact recurrent pregnancy loss. So miscarriage risk, we've seen a connection. Chronic inflammation can decrease progesterone levels, which can lead to issues with implantation at those 2 weeks when we're trying to implant and have that initial growth. And it can also lead to impacts with your autoimmune response. So autoimmunity is your body fighting its own immune system, which we don't want when you're trying to bring in a child. And that can impact fertility. It has also been shown to impact development of antibodies against sperm, so against your partner's sperm, which can impact fertilization. So in many different ways, this microbiome and this inflammation can affect your ability to conceive in those first few weeks. And so I had leaky gut. I had infections, bacterial infections, parasites even, which are more common than you would think. And they were a huge contributor to my PCOS. I saw that. I was having over 100-day cycles, not ovulating. And when I got rid of infections and healed my gut, that was one of the big things that helped me to be able to regulate regularly to conceive and have that healthy conception. And so as I mentioned, the miscarriage risk, right? So recent research has shown that women with recurrent miscarriages actually have a higher rate of gut disorders. And these are undiagnosed gut disorders. So this isn't something that you can necessarily just go to like your GI doc and they're going to figure out. They don't work that way because they want to find disease, right? And this can be on a different level. And so in particular, women with recurrent pregnancy loss have been found to have abnormal gut permeability, which means maybe you've heard the term leaky gut. So leaky gut, that's when your intestines are inflamed and you're bringing in things to your body that are not meant to be coming into your bloodstream. And this can contribute to inflammatory reactions, and which they think is what can be contributing to the miscarriage is this inflammation, this immune reaction taking place from leaky gut. And it makes sense, right? Your body fighting itself, this heightened inflammation, it can be hard for implantation and healthy growth, because what is a new baby? It's a foreign thing, which is what it is. It's a foreign cell process that's coming into your body. So that's why in pregnancy, you naturally lower your immune system because you don't want to fight this off. And so if you have a heightened immune response, heightened inflammation, you might be fighting off a pregnancy, a baby, if that's making sense. So I hope you guys are following with me. If you're having any light bulbs or anything going on, let me know in the comments if this is relevant to you. So it can also affect the health of our babies, right? So it's been shown that even as a fetus in the womb, children are starting to build their gut health foundation. And so this can be some of the most influential time is right as before you conceive for you, so that they come into it when they conceive through pregnancy up to the first 3 to 5 years of life. Within that time, you are established pretty well with your gut microbiome in either a good way or a bad way that can cause issues. And interestingly, this can affect for generations. So your gut health can affect your grandchildren. It's been shown even to maybe affect 5 generations. So this is especially why I'm so passionate about helping women before they conceive and preparing your body to conceive, because we aren't just talking about getting pregnant. We're talking about the health of your baby, the health of their babies possibly, right? And we can see how in the world, our health is not so great, and we really are at this time we need to pivot and help future generations. So especially in the areas of growth and development, gut health has been shown to be incredibly influential into further generations. So we're seeing sometimes the microbiome when you conceive, when you're pregnant, that the microbiome then passes on to breast milk. And then those early life, the 3 to 5 year development, which can really set up the rest of life. And the good news is that you can change this. You can help this naturally, and you can really impact your future and your children's future. And even if you're further down the line, maybe you already have some children too, you can still influence this, and you can still help your children and make a difference. It's never too late to make a difference. But some signs that a new baby, maybe if we didn't get a hold of it ahead of time, or some things that can be impactful, why we want to think about this before you conceive, is because it can reduce risk of new babies struggling with colic, constipation, diarrhea, excess gas, skin issues like eczema, allergies, things like that when the baby comes into the world. No one wants a colicky baby, right? So what can damage your gut, and where does this start to happen? So gut dysbiosis, that's a term for imbalanced gut bacteria. Too much of bad guys, not enough good guys. And you can also include having things like viruses, funguses, other things, that parasites that should not be there. And so we've talked about it can cause inflammation. So how this happens, one of the biggest pitfalls is diet. And so the standard American diet is now very high in inflammatory foods, from refined foods, processed sugars, and starches, pesticides, herbicides, GMOs from farming practices. Eating this way can really allow your bacteria balance to go off kilter, and other bad bacteria and organisms to overgrow. And one common mistake that I see is many know, when you're preparing for pregnancy or in pregnancy, is to take a quality prenatal, right? But what you don't always realize is that your diet, we take this prenatal because you're like, oh, I'm getting my vitamins, I'm getting my minerals, right? But your diet is more than just trying to get vitamins and minerals. It's really about supporting your digestion, this microbiome to be able to absorb vitamins and minerals from food from your supplements, and to help feed the bacteria that is in your gut, and that's feeding your baby, right? So in pregnancy, we know it can be harder sometimes to eat as well as you want, with nausea and aversions or cravings. But if you're eating bread and ice cream and pizza all day, and you think you're being covered by your prenatal, it's just not true, because there's so many other processes that your diet is impacting and going into. And so that's why we can set you up in the preconception time to help even reduce some issues during pregnancy, some of those side effects, but have those habits and those understandings that once you are pregnant, you know how to support this as best as possible. And you have to have this diverse bacteria to break down foods, break down supplements, digest foods, absorb everything. Because, what is taking a supplement, even if you're literally flushing it down the toilet, if you don't have good digestion and you aren't absorbing anything from it, right? And so this impacts what you absorb, what you transfer to your child. And another thing is, a lot of times with fertility, you can get focused on weight, right? If you go to the doctor and you're told, just lose weight, everything will get better. We can get really focused on that number on the scale, whether you're overweight or underweight, where we need to focus on supporting nutrients, nourishment, lowering inflammation, and having the good gut health is more important than just focusing on a number. And that's where the conventional approach can go wrong, because we have to support all of these things in a way for your hormones, your immune system, to help you, not make it harder for you to get pregnant and not damage your fertility, right? So we can lay out the groundwork on this. Okay, and so When we optimize your gut with diet changes, lifestyle changes, supplementation when necessary, we're affecting that entire timeline of your ease of getting pregnant before you conceive to your child's health moving forward. And all of this can be utilized in the preconception time. And it's especially important if we do suspect that you have more serious issues or infections, like I did, because it's not something we can really address to the same degree when you're pregnant or breastfeeding, because for the safety of your child, if you have more serious infections, we need to take care of this now before you're conceiving, or sometimes even while you're trying currently. We need to address this, and time can be of the essence to, really help you with your goals, because there's not always something we can do during pregnancy to the same amount or breastfeeding. So, and that brings me to why it's important to look at now for your pregnancy and to help your pregnancy once you become pregnant, because your gut microbiome also relates to other microbiomes. So we have bacteria communities all over our skin, orally, on our breasts, vaginally. And your gut microbiome is this complex network that relates to all of the other ones. And so maybe you have heard of group B strep. So it's a common infection that they test during pregnancy, at the end of pregnancy. And that's a bacteria that can be found in the woman's bowel or vagina. And in rare instances, it can cause infection in a baby at birth. So it's standard conventionally to treat with antibiotics at birth if you test positive for this. However, we know that the maternal bacteria that you get at birth can really impact your baby's health. C-section babies have different health than vaginal delivered babies. I always wonder, I'm a C-section baby, if things would have been different if I had that bacteria from a vaginal birth. So not everyone wants to go for C-sections. And so, and not everyone wants to have antibiotics, right? Have antibiotics at birth. So it's important to test negative for this bacteria. And one way that you can help prevent this issue is with your gut health before you get pregnant and at the beginning of pregnancy. So taking care of that healthy environment. Also, issues with breastfeeding, yeast, thrush that women can develop on your nipples that you can transfer back to your baby, back and forth. This can be prevented before you even get pregnant. And with breast milk, so if you choose to breastfeed, then there's growing evidence that the mother's gut bacteria actually transfers to her breast milk. And this can help with your your infant's immune system and health moving forward. So really taking care of your gut you can see, has a long-standing effect. Getting pregnant, having healthy ovulation, having healthy implantation, reducing miscarriage risk, impacting your pregnancy, your side effects of pregnancy, infections that can happen in pregnancy that affect labor, and then breast milk. All of this, right? So it's huge. And there's huge signs of it preventing postpartum depression, postpartum anxiety, and postpartum depletion syndrome as well. If you want me to go more into like the pregnancy postpartum sometime, I can go into that at another point, but I know a lot of us are thinking more shorter term, but we want to have the long term in mind as well. But if you ever want me to go more in depth on that, just let me know. Okay, so what can we do? What can we do? Okay, so I do have a program where I walk through step by step on all of this, and the ground foundation is gut health on it, right? And we do this in a personalized way as well, with all of the other things that we want to do to help with your fertility naturally. But the first step is to eat real food. So eat quality food, have a diverse diet. All honesty, this gets you a huge way if we just eat real food, less processed food. That is automatically going to make your diet better. So that's one step, is just focus on eating healthy animal proteins, vegetables, fruits, healthy fats, things like that, and you're going to get further along the road. And then the second one is removing inflammatory foods. And so typically in my programs too, I talk a lot about this. And we start with removing some of the top inflammatory foods, such as gluten or dairy. And depending on your issues, how we want to personalize it, you might introduce it later on, test and see how you respond. But removing inflammatory foods is very important to removing that inflammation in your gut and allowing it to start to heal. Because if you are constantly bombarding your gut every day with inflammatory foods, it's going to be really hard for it to ever heal and do what it needs to rebalance. And so interesting, even in gluten-free diets and pregnancy have some evidence that have been shown to increase the specific bacteria in the baby that decreases the chance of diabetes and inflammation in the child. So something to consider, even eating these inflammatory foods during pregnancy can have later effects on your child's health, but reason why we can start getting groundwork for all of that in the preconception time. There was also an interesting study that was done that showed that women with unexplained infertility have a 3.5 times higher odds of having celiac disease, which is autoimmune disease to gluten. And it's not always as easy as we think it is to diagnose this, to understand if we have it, or to understand if we are on the route to developing it. There are some ways that we can look into this. But I think that's one reason why some women can be struggling. It's estimated that even 6% of women struggling with unexplained infertility might have celiac disease, be on that spectrum and not know it. Okay, but I don't want you to, get too confused with all of this. We need to reduce inflammatory foods and figure out what is best for your body. So you can walk through all of these steps. The next one that we want to consider is that there are actually different classifications. So sometimes we can get really tuned into like probiotics, right? But there's actually something else that we need called prebiotics. So there's 2 classifications. And first of all, probiotics are the main bacteria, the live organisms, okay? They are important. But prebiotics, this is the food, the fuel. This feeds those organisms so that they can colonate and live and fight for you. So you need to have both of them. You need to have the right amount of organisms, the right balance of organisms, and then the right fuel for them to live in a healthy way. And so both of those can come from your gut or from your diet. Prebiotic foods can be garlic and onions, leeks, asparagus, white potato, green plantain, one of my favorite starches, green bananas, apples, flax seeds, fibrous foods can provide the prebiotics. And then the probiotics can come from things like fermented foods too. So like kimchi, sauerkraut, raw pickles, yogurts. Quality matters. So you can't just go buy pickles off the shelf. They have to be refrigerated ones because once again, these are live bacteria. So they have to be refrigerated to be live. They can't be, go through this pasteurized process and just kill everything off. That can be a problem with some of the common yogurts that we see, right? But you can work through both of these categories to help in one way use diet. And of course, supplements, the right type of supplements on these can be helpful as well too. And then there's spices and herbs, things like cayenne, garlic, cinnamon, curries, turmeric are all really helpful for the microbiome. And digestion, you need to go to the bathroom. We need to get all of this stuff out. Our waste, our poop is hormones, it is bacteria, it is things that your body doesn't want to absorb. It's a lot of stuff that you need to get out so we aren't reabsorbing it too. So if you're not pooping every day, or if your poops look unhealthy, then you might need extra support, right? And that's one way that we need to help make sure with food, with diet, with hydration, that we're supporting your gut. And then what you can do further. So you can check in on your gut further. So a functional gut panel, this is not something that you get done at your doctor's or even your GI doctor, because once again, they don't use those types of tests or labs because they don't work with the microbiome. You know, they work to find disease and provide medication. They aren't working with the microbiome in this way. But if you have leaky gut, inflammation, food sensitivities, poor digestion, they're not the person to help you. We need to look in this other route, which what we do with a functional gut panel. So we can check in to really see, do you have issues that we need to consider that are holding you back from getting pregnant or that could affect the health of your baby? And so if you have known gut issues, ladies, if you suspect that there's a problem with your gut, then this is a tip-top priority to talk about, right? Time is of the essence to chat about this so we can help take care of it as quickly as possible and get you on your way. And so we can look and see, what infections do you have? Is there inflammation? What is affecting you? Let's get an idea. Okay. And then supplements. So once again, supplements can be helpful. Diet is the foundation, but supplements can be really helpful. And we might need to personalize it. Do we need to get rid of some of the infections? Do we need to help with your gut mucosa, the inflammation, calm things down? Do we need some good probiotics? What is best for you? That's going to be the best bang for your buck and the most useful. And then stress. Emotional stress impacts your gut. Emotional stress, mental stress. This clearly impacts the physical reactions in your body. And that's one reason why doing this type of work is especially important, you know, too, if before you conceive, to prevent stress, an extra stress response during that time. But also if you're in fertility treatments, then this is extra important because we know that's stressful, right? That can be such a hard time in your life, and that can be impacting your gut microbiome, and that can be increasing your success rates or affecting your success rates. And it can kind of be the cycle where we want to make sure that we're helping you and helping reduce stress so that you can feel good and confident, because it all plays together. So to really recap, you know, diet, eat real unprocessed foods, pre and probiotics, spices and herbs, keep digestion moving, hydrate, remove inflammatory foods, which might be specific to you. And then there's specific supplements and stress. So those are the steps, the groundwork, the framework that we want to walk through for a real focus on your gut. And once again, any of these steps are helpful at your journey. So if you're further down the route, I'm getting tongue-tied. If you're further down the route, this is still important. If we can catch you before you've conceived, we can do a lot too. So if you have any questions or comments on this or your specific situation, please definitely let me know too. You can comment below. How is this relating to you? How does this relate to your specific situation? You can shoot me a direct message if you'd like to talk more in a private message. That's always welcome. I'm here to chat more. But we can talk about how does this relate to you in your journey and what do we need to do to help you. So I hope you enjoyed this presentation. Please let me know what this brought up for you. I hope it got you thinking about this really important topic, because I know maybe it hasn't been spoken about in your journey. So let me know what you think, ladies, and I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful day.